How can you find out your break-even ACOS on Amazon ads? I'm David Goldenberg, and I've been marketing online for 20 years. I led the marketing for Seller, who grew from 30 million a year to 57 million a year. And that led me to founding my agency, 11 Ads for Brands. In order to give you a full answer about finding your break-even ACOS, we need to address the following questions. There's a standard formula that many gurus teach and many PPC tools use to calculate your break-even ACOS and to calculate your profitability from your Amazon PPC. But why is that formula not accurate? How can you calculate really your break-even ACOS? A related question is, why are you interested to find out your break-even ACOS specifically? If it's because you're relying on the old advice about pushing Amazon ads in order to rank organically, you need to know that ad advice is becoming less and less relevant in today's Amazon. And why is that? Which Amazon ads have less competition, both in the number of advertisers competing for them, and also in the quality of the ads that those advertisers are running? And how does that affect your ACOS? I want to help you answer these questions and more so that you can increase your ads profitability and grow your business. Let's begin. So the formula looks something like this. You've got your sales, you subtract your COGS, you subtract your shipping cost from China or wherever you're manufacturing it. You take out your FBA fees. You're going to take out your referral fees, okay, that you pay to Amazon, that 15% in most markets. You've also got storage in some cases if you have a third-party logistics provider that's storing it in a warehouse before it goes to Amazon. You have your coupons. There's also refunds and miscellaneous other fees. Now, when you subtract all of those different costs we just mentioned from your sales, that's supposed to give you the profit. And if you do the profit divided by the sales, that is supposed to give you the margin, okay? That percentage, for example, if you have $10 in profit and $100 in sales, that's supposed to give you a 10% margin, for example. Now, that would be, in theory, your break-even ACOS on Amazon, but it's wrong. Why is it wrong? The reason it's wrong is because it's based on an assumption, and that assumption is wrong. The assumption is, if I advertise product A, for example, this plant, I will in fact sell product A. But if you sold product B, you still see the ad as having generated those sales. So you might have $200 in sales, but only 100 of them came from this plant and 100 came from a different plant or some other SKU in your catalog, for example, pots or a watering can and so forth. Now I want to come back with you to the proper formula to calculate your break-even ACOS on Amazon ads. But before we do that, I want to ask, why are you interested in finding that out in particular? Why would your break-even ACOS be of particular use? And for many people, the reason is because they're relying on advertising advice that they got from gurus, from whoever, that they should push their ads to where they're just breaking even on the ads in order to get organic ranking, and that's where they will make their profit. And there's a big mistake with that. In theory, it's still possible to do that, but that advice is becoming more and more dated as we go along. And I'll do a little screen share so you can see what I'm talking about. Okay, suppose that I'm looking for a watering can on Amazon. Let's look what the search results look like in this case. So we've got a sponsored brand product collection over here at the top of my page. And below that, what we're going to see here is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 sponsored results. There is not a single organic result above the page. Let's keep going. Here we have some organic non-sponsored results. Look at this. Hey, this is sponsored too. Customers mention. We go a little bit further. Hey, wait. Here's a second sponsored brand in the middle of the search results page. Okay, here's some advertising, probably sponsored display Also on the side, here's another sponsored brand video this time. Here are more sponsored products. The ad load on this page is just growing from year to year, from quarter to quarter, because Amazon needs to keep showing that its advertising business is growing. But hold on, what happens if we go to a product page? We've got an ad here at the top. There's another sponsored display. Similar items and new arrivals for you. This actually appears to be organic, which to me is shocking. But here we go. Amazon hasn't forgotten itself. Here's deals, which are sponsored. The point is, this page is just getting full of ads. And if your whole strategy on Amazon is that you're going to get organic exposure, well, there's just fewer and fewer places that are getting organic exposure, that are driving a worthwhile amount of traffic that you could build a business on, that you can have a listing that is worth running and managing inventory and ordering product and customer service on all the rest of it. So this begs the conclusion that you need to not just break even on your ads, you need to profit on your ads, because the chances of you getting into the top 1, 2, 3 organic spots where you can drive enough business to make it worthwhile, those chances are going down more and more as Amazon adds more and more ads to their search results and product pages. Now, what you need to know is that there are many fewer people doing sponsored brand ads, okay? And the reason is because what you can see here. A sponsored brand ad, unlike sponsored products, has a lot of creative elements. There's a headline, there's a custom image, and in addition to that, there's 3 different products that you need to have in your creative, with these standard ones with the product collection. It's a lot more effort to run sponsored brands than sponsored products. It demands creativity. It demands the ability to write good English. These are things that other people who can copy your sourcing and can knock off your products, they can't knock off your brain so easily. And the marketing knowledge to do something like this is a lot harder. It's also one of the things that we focus on this channel. So if you want to learn how to make ads that sell, I encourage you to hit the subscribe button. But more broadly, I encourage you to spend more time and effort learning sponsored brands, because this is a place where there's fewer competitors. Some of them also just don't have enough product, right? Even though nowadays it's possible to just run one of these with only one product, but people still believe that you need to have the 3 products, and that keeps out a lot of competitors who only have one relevant product for your keyword. And the ones that are doing it, the quality of their advertising tends to be lower. So this is a place where you can get an edge, and we also see for our clients often lower ACOS from the sponsored brand, sponsored display, because we're able to pre-sell them, right, to persuade them more than you can just with a sponsored product, which is just your listing image, headline, reviews, and price. So now with that said, how can you exactly calculate your real break-even ACOS based not on what you advertised, based on what you actually sold? Okay, so first of all, like we said, you're going to need to know what you actually sold. So for sponsored product, it's called the purchased product report. For sponsored brands, similar name, it's called the attributed purchases report. And both of these can be downloaded in your normal sponsored ads reporting interface. Now, there's also an additional report, which you need to generate yourself essentially from your own data. And what that is basically a COGS, which is going to cover the following elements. So obviously you need to have your cost of goods sold, what your manufacturer charges you, the shipping cost per unit, right? Not for a container, but what you're actually spending on a unit level. You need your storage cost per unit and times the number of months. So if on average it costs you, let's say 50 cents per month to store, and you're storing for 3 months, right? So that's going to be times, let's say, 3 months, just for the example. So times the number, the amount of time that you're doing that. Then you'll also want to have your FBA fees in there, whatever it is. You need to have your referral fees, but I need to show you how you deduct them. The referral fees are unique. You don't want to pull them from a separate sheet. You want to calculate them on the purchased or attributed purchases report. So we can come back to that in a minute. You have your coupons, okay? And if you're using these, you need to know that not everybody takes you up on this, and you only pay for what is actually used. For example, if you have a 5% coupon, but in practice only 40% of people take you up on that, that's 40% of 5%. So in fact, you're basically just discounting 2%. So you need to know what your actual use rate is and deduct that. And if you have refunds, okay, so you'll want to deduct that. Now, for the referrals, this is how it looks like. You go to your attributed purchases report, and suppose for argument's sake, you have $1,000 of sales. If you're doing 15% as your referral fee because of your category, so you want to deduct minus 1,000 times 15%, okay? So that is going to be minus 150 equals 850. Now it's important that you do this based on the actual sales, because what you sold for in practice may differ to what you've got listed in your cost of goods sold sheet. So your cost of goods sold sheet may say that your Amazon selling price is $40, but that is usually going to be based on the most recent price update. It doesn't take into account the whole period of time, right? So your price may have been up to $45 at some point. It may have been down to $30 at other points. You may have had coupons, you may have had lightning deals, etc. running. And so you need to deduct based on the actual amount sold and not what your price is in theory. So for example, if you deduct 15% from 40, this would be actually $6. But your referral fees, if you sold for 45, are actually going to be higher. And if you sold for 30, then they're going to be a lot lower than $6. That's going to be obviously a very significant difference across $1,000 of sales or more, hopefully. So that is an important point in how you do these calculations. Now, the last thing you need in order to really understand how you're doing is a advertising spend and a campaign element. I go to the web interface, and so over here you've got all your campaigns, your data. So for example, you've got your spend, you've got your CPC, you've got your sales, you've got your ACOS, etc. And somewhere around here, there's a little button that says export. You hit that, and it will download all these campaigns data for you. And the reason that's important is because you want to have that in a spreadsheet so that you can combine it with the rest of the data. And what that allows you to do is to produce basically a summary. So for example, for campaign number 1, right, we know that our sales were, let's say, $1,000, okay? And from that, you can subtract all the fees, or you can show just separately, if you can calculate separately or on the same tab, doesn't matter so much. You can calculate of that how much profit you actually had, right? So let's say for argument's sake, we made 25% margins. So it was $250 based on what we actually sold, right? What we saw in the attributed purchases report. And the actual break-even ACOS would therefore be profit over sales, but our real profit over our sales, in this case, 25%. And where do we get this number? This is basically just the result of subtracting our COGS, our shipping, our storage, and all the FBA, and all the other fees that we just talked about. And you'll be able basically to do it on a unit per unit basis, because what that report tells you is something like this. It's going to show you product X, right, 10 units, and you'll have whatever amount of dollars sold, right? So if we say $1,000, and over here you can just use a VLOOKUP formula that works in Excel and in Google Sheets to pull in your COGS and other fees to subtract them for this product. And then you just copy those formulas down for the rest of the sheet. And that is going to get you your profit. And you can just pull that in over here. And you can compare that also with your spend to see, was this campaign actually profitable? So if you spent, let's say, $150, so you had a 15% ACOS, and you made $100 in real profit on that campaign. Now that you know how to measure your ads' profitability and to find out how to calculate exactly your ads' break-even ACOS, I suggest you check out this other video where I explain what exactly you need to measure in order to scale your ads. I had an experience where we lost a huge campaign, and because we were making all these other campaigns, the incremental sales from those hid the fact that this other campaign crashed. And I've seen it happen in several other accounts, in fact. So I explain exactly what you need to measure, how to build the report. You want to check that out if you're ambitious and you want to grow your Amazon ad sales.